name is Emmanuel Dei-Tumi, and I want to welcome you to this particular discussion. Today, I want to talk briefly about the 3 critical success principles that every young African professional needs to know or must know. And if you have some that have followed me all these years up to today, please note that this that I'm going to be sharing with you is so vital for your very, very success journey as far as this year 2026 is concerned. Now, not too long ago, maybe about 25, or maybe 3 decades ago, the world started experiencing a wave of technological advancement, and I'm sure by now you're very much aware. We started talking about the 4th Industrial Revolution, and then we talked about a world that has been characterized by forces such as VUCA. VUCA here means volatility, uncertainty, and complexity and ambiguity. And if you're a young professional, nobody needs to tell you that if you really want to succeed in this particular age, you are going to have to need a different kind of thinking. Wagner 2018, published a book, and he said that the 4th Industrial Revolution and the VUCA world will require a new way of thinking and leading, which is called digital leadership. Now, if you want to succeed in the VUCA world, if you want to succeed in this 21st century world, which has been characterized by technology, please take it from me. You cannot continue to be doing the same things all the time and expect to become relevant in this digital age. So these 3 principles I'm going to be sharing with you, please take it very, very seriously. Now, because I'm a Christian, let me start my presentation from a biblical standpoint. If you read 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 11, the Apostle Paul made a very profound statement. 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 11. He said, when I was a child, I spoke and reasoned as a child. It does. But when I grew up, in other words, when I became an adult, I put away childish things. When I was a child, I thought, I spoke, I reasoned like a child. But when I grew up, I threw away childish stuff. In other words, there comes a time in the life of every human being. In this case, I'm talking about the young African professional, that you are going to have to come to terms with the fact that for you to progress in the marketplace, for you to progress in the digital world, there are certain behaviors, there are certain characteristics, there are certain, habits that you are going to have to put away and imbibe new ways of thinking and adopt new principles that are going to help you to move on to the next level. And if you don't, take it from me, you will become irrelevant in this digital world. And that is why today I'm taking my time to walk us through what I call the 3 critical principles that every young professional will need to become successful in this digital age. Let me start off by giving you something I call the different phases of life. Now, you come to appreciate the fact that every human being goes through what I call 3 phases of life. The first phase of life will be from age 0 to age 25. I call that phase what I call the growth preparatory stage. That's when you start growing. Preparatory stage from age 0 to 25. This is where you learn all the values, all the habits, all the paradigms that will shape your life for the rest of your life. Unless you get to a point where you now appreciate the fact that you are going to have to develop new principles to take it to another level. So from age 0 to 25, you go to what I call the preparatory stage, what I call the growth phase. Then from age 26 to 59, you go to what we call the adulthood, or we call it the working period of your life. You move from growth stage to adulthood, and then you move into maturity stage. This is when you start working, by which time 26, you should have finished university, should have started your working life, and then you get married, you start to raise families, and then all the way up to the age of 60. In the case of most African countries, you go on retirement. So you move from growth stage, 0 to 25, to 26 to 59 or 60, you move from what we call adulthood to maturity. And Paul is saying that by the time you move from 0 to 25, you move from 0 to 25, which is the preparatory stage, or what I call the growth stage, to the adult stage and to maturity stage. If you are going to go on with the same mindset, the same character, the same principles, you're not going to make it. So there will come a time when you have to throw away childish stuff. You have to do away with the way you have been doing things in the past if you must become relevant in the digital stage. Now, the adulthood to the maturity stage, as I said, is the second phase of your life. That is from age 26 to 59. Now then you move to what I call the retirement stage, or what we call the old stage, or the old age, which is from 60 or 59 till God calls you from this planet Earth. That is the period we call the retirement period, or the old age. Now you come to appreciate that in each of these phases, what is required of you to become relevant may be different. But the critical thing about old age is that when you get to the old age, a lot of your relevance is going to be based on what you did right from the growth stage, particularly on the maturity stage and the adult stage. In other words, the second phase of your life. Some of you may be in the second phase today. Some of you may just about crossing over from the growth stage or the preparatory stage to the adulthood, and then you progress also to the maturity stage. A few of us maybe have now crossed over to the old age. Whichever level you find yourself, please take it from me. These three principles I'm going to share with you are critical. But for those of you who are in the adult stage, or what I call the working life stage or phase, the adulthood and the maturity, please take these principles as communion and learn how you can apply them in your own life. Because if you do, I can guarantee you, success will be knocking at your door. Now, let me say this. The first thing that you are going to do is that before we even go into these principles, I also want to draw your attention to the fact that because of the digital age that we find ourselves in, your university certificate is no longer as relevant as it used to be. Well, during my time when I was in the university, I left university, my first degree in 1992. At that stage, at that time, if you finish university, you have the certificate, chances are that you get a job. Prior to my age, those who came before us, what I call a traditionalist, these were people that even before they left the university, they will come and be looking for them on campus. Today, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of young people who have come out of university are not getting jobs. What this means is that the period in which we find ourselves, there are some critical personal leadership questions that everybody must answer them for the future that's ahead of us. So before I go into the three critical principles that you need, let me help you to answer some of these critical personal leadership questions that are going to help you for the future ahead of you. The first one that I want you to ask yourself is this. Number one, how ready are you in terms of preparing for the future? Are you change ready for the future as a young African professional? Today with technology, you can work from anywhere in the world, even in the comfort of your home. But how ready are you for the change that is sweeping across the entire globe? Number two, do your current skills and competencies and capabilities, do they align with what will be effective in this digital age or in this digital new world order? Your current skills that you have, your current competencies that you have, your current capabilities, friend, are they still relevant in this digital age? That's a question you must answer. I think you have heard of AI and the influence of technology and all the robotic engineering and all the things that are happening. Please, these are not a joke. You cannot wish them away. You cannot pray them away. And if you're a young professional, you must ask yourself, do your current skills and competence support your applications in the job world? Number 3, do I dedicate time and resources to identifying and developing relevant skills for the future? Maybe right now you are in a certain level of employment and you are thinking about the next 5 years, this is where I want to go, this is what I want to do. I don't know. Have you taken time to take stock of your current skills? And if you are going to move into the next 10 years, what are the skills that are going to be required? What are the competencies that are going to be required? And how much of time are you investing in developing these skills? These are leadership skills, competencies that you are going to have to ask yourself. So, the next question you must ask yourself is, and I don't know which phase of life are you now, whether you are still in the growth stage or you've just transited into the adulthood or the maturity stage. Question I want to ask you is, since you were born, when was the last time you had a written down life goals? Have you ever taken the time to take a pen and paper to write down your plan, your life goals for the next 10 years ahead of you, the next 15 years ahead of you, even the next 5 years ahead of you? If you have, you must ask yourself, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you score your results, your performance on those goals that you have set for yourself? We're in 2026. Let's assume you are 15 years. The next 10 years will be 2020. You'll be 25 years. Have you had written down goals? And if you're already 30, did you have written down goals? So all these years, have you taken the time to evaluate your results, your performance, your outcomes? And if you have, on a scale of 1 to 10, how are you doing so far? And if you're not happy about your results, I have a question for you then. What has been your biggest challenge in achieving those results? For all the years that you've been on this planet Earth, if you had goals, what has been the biggest challenge that you have encountered? Now, I'm sorry to say that, but there are many people today in Africa who don't even have dreams for themselves. They've never thought about the fact that they can write down a goal for themselves. They can have a life goal written down so that every 2 years or every 1 year, by end of December, they can evaluate themselves and make plans to either progress to the next level or to do the necessary changes for them to be able to become, progressive. Now, if you don't have all these things, how are you going to survive in the years ahead? The last question you must ask yourself is, are you willing to change the results of your life, regardless of the challenges that confront you? You can never go through life without challenges, my friend. And so if you are thinking that you want to become this, you want to become that, you want to become whatever it is, and it's going to come to you on a silver platter, please hear me. That is not going to happen. So before I give you the principles, I want you to take some time, and I'm going to give you the time to reflect on these questions and try to find answers to these questions. Because if you don't find answers to them, it doesn't matter the principle that I'm going to share with you. It will not make any difference in your life. So I'll give you some time. Take your time. Review these questions again. And if you don't mind, I'll go over them again for you so that you can understand what I'm talking about. The first question that you need to ask yourself is, are you change ready as a young professional in this world? Number 2, do your current skills and capabilities align with what will be effective in this digital world going into the future? Number 3, do you dedicate time and resources to identifying and developing the relevant skills that are going to be required in your field of work as far as the next 10 years is concerned? And if you don't mind, again, I've asked the question, have you ever had written down goals for your life? Listen, even mosquito has a goal. Those of you in Africa, when I say mosquito, you know what a mosquito is. Have you ever had mosquito come to your room trying to bite you? And then as he's you try to kill the mosquito, and then the mosquito goes away. Does the mosquito go away completely? No. Because he has a goal, the mosquito is always fighting hard to achieve his goal. How about you, the human being? When was the last time you wrote down your goals on paper? And if you did, then you must ask yourself, on a scale of 1 to 10, How are you faring? And therefore, you must ask yourself, what are the challenges that are confronting me in achieving these goals? You know, if you ask anybody who has been successful, they will tell you that no success in this world comes without a fight, comes without a battle. So if you don't evaluate yourself, if you don't evaluate your goals, you will never ever be able to identify what the challenges have been. In case you have done that, the question I'm asking you is, are you really willing to pay the necessary price to move to the next level of your life? And if your answer is yes, then I'm ready to give you the principles. Listen, my friend, sometimes people come to me and they say, "Does it help me? I want to be like you." And I always ask them, can you carry the cross I've carried? Are you willing to pay that cross? Listen, I never saw my dad. I come from a village. My mother never went to school before. At the age of 1 year, 6 months, my father died. In Ghana, we call something common entrance. Those of you who may be what I call the poultry farm chicken children. When I say poultry farm chicken children, those children who their lifestyle is like microwave, popcorn microwave. Papa, then you become. No, we didn't go through like that. I passed common entrance 4 times before I went to secondary school. The first time I passed, there was no one to pay my fees, so I couldn't go. The second time, the same thing. The third time, the same thing. So I finished Form 4, what we call Saito in those years. Middle school. I had to stay home for 1 year. In those 1 year, you know what I was doing? Because I was determined to go to secondary school. I used to go to Begro, Bososo, Fanchiriko, villages in Ghana. And I'll go and buy plantain, cassava, fruits. Put them in the train and bring them to Accra to come and sell. In the evenings, I'll buy kerosene and go from house to house, sell them on my head. That's how I went to secondary school. When I was in secondary school, I was a school prefect. Even at that time, I was preparing banku and soup to sell. And that's how I was able to go to university. I had to pay, sell banku on my head before I was able to save money and go to university. If I had not paid that price, I couldn't have gone to university. My friend, what dream do you have? What are your inspirations? Today you have all kinds of opportunities around you. But I'm telling you, none of those opportunities will be relevant to you unless you are willing to pay the right price, the right sacrifices, to be able to get to where you want to get to. So if you have now come to the conclusion, you have evaluated your performance so far, and you come to the conclusion that this is not where you want to be, and that you want to move to the next level of your life, and you are willing to pay whatever price it takes to move to that level, then you are ready for the principles that I'm going to be sharing with you. And I don't want to rush into this because I want to make sure that you are ready for the next person that is coming out of you. And sometimes, we fight, we pray, we cry, and we blame God for not opening doors to us. When the door is open and you enter, with your character and your skills, allow you to remain in that door, in that room, on that table. That is why I'm bringing to you these principles. And I hope that you're going to apply these principles to your life. And if you do, I can guarantee you that you are going to be one of the best people that your country, that your family, that the people in the community have seen so far.